Hey, Shalom Israel, Shalom Baltimore. This is the ISHBK Baltimore Sabbath Service. I want to say Yahweh Hashem Yahushua, Barak Thumb to all the brothers, Yahweh Shema Alathan Hashem Yahushua to all the sisters. We're gonna get right into the scriptures. We're gonna be starting the day off. We're gonna be in Genesis chapter 41, verses 31 through 37. We're gonna read it first in the Hebrew, and we're gonna read it second in the English. Genesis chapter 41, verse 31. Wala'ah, Yewadah, Hashabai, Ba'aratazah, Hara'ab, Hahawa'ah, Akaria, Khan, Kaya, Kabad, Hawa'ah, Ma'ad, verse 32. Wa'al, Hashanawath, Hahalawam, Hahalawam, Al, Para'ai, Pa'aimium, Kaya, Nakawan, Hadabar, Ma'aim, Ha'alahayim, Umamahar, Ha'alahayim, La'aishathwa, verse 33. Wa'aitha, Yara'ah, Para'ai, Ayash, number one, Wakakam, Wayashayath, Hawa, Al, Aratazah, Matazarayim, verse 34. Ya Aisha, Para'ai, Waya Paquadium, Al, Ha'aratazah, Wakamash, Aratazah, Matazarayim, Bashabai, Shanya, Hashabai, verse 35. Waya Kwabatazaya, Waya Kwabatazaya, Waya Kwabatazayawa, Kal, Akol, Hashanyam, Hatabath, Haba'ath, Ha'alah, Waya Tabarwa, Bar, the Kath, Yad, Para'ai, Akol, Ba'arium, Washamarwa, verse 36. Wahaya, Ha'akol, Lapaquadwan, La Arataza, La Shabai, Shanya, Hara'ai, Ashar, the Hayayan, Ba'arataza, Matazarayim, Wala'ah, the Karath, Ha'arataza, Bara'ai, verse 37. Wayayatab, Hadabar, Ba'ayanya, Para'ai, Waba'ayanya, Kal, Ibadyawa, and that's it. And we're going to be reading Genesis chapter 41, verses 31 through 37 in the English. Genesis chapter 41, verse 31. And the plenty shall not be known in the land by reason of that famine following, for it shall be very grievous. And just to catch everybody up, where we at is pretty much when Joseph was in prison, and Joseph had already he interpreted the dream of the two of the officers in Pharaoh's in his little system, and the dream that he interpreted, one was going to get killed, the other one was going to be raised up. That happened. So the one that got raised up, he forgot what Joseph did for him when he got out of prison. But when Pharaoh had a dream, he called all his soothsayers and all that. They couldn't interpret his dream, but that's when the one he remembered. Oh, it was a guy in jail that could interpret dreams, and that's when he called David. He interpreted Pharaoh's dream, and the dream was that it was going to be 7 years of plenty, and then there's going to be 7 years of famine. So that's where we're at right now. Verse 32. And for that the dream was doubled unto Pharaoh twice. It is because the thing that is established by God, and God will shortly bring it to pass. 33. Now therefore Pharaoh looked out a man discreet and wise, and set him over the land of Egypt. Verse 34. Let Pharaoh do this, and let him appoint officers over the land, and take up the fifth part of the land of Egypt in the 7 plenteous years. Verse 35. And let them gather all the food of those good years that come, and lay up corn under the hand of Pharaoh, and let them keep the food in the cities. Verse 36. And that food shall be for store to the land against the 7 years of famine, which shall be in the land of Egypt, that the land perish not through the famine. Verse 37. And the thing was good in the eyes of Pharaoh and in the eyes of all his servants. So what we're saying here is, not only did Pharaoh listen to what Joseph did, right now he's getting a game plan. He's getting a strategy together, because he's going to have 7 years of pretty much double portion grain. Like, it's going to be plenty. You see what I'm saying? But now he's going to store it in preparation for the 7 years that they're going to have a famine. So now we in Genesis chapter 41, verse 38 through 44 in the Hebrew. Wayamar para'ai al Ibadyawa Hanamataza'a Hanamataza'a Kaza Ayash Ashar Rawak Alahayim Bawa, verse 39. Wayamar para'ai al Yawasap Akarya Hawadayai Alahayim Awathka Ath Kol Za'ath Ayun number 1 Wakakam Kamawaka, verse 40. Atha the Haya Al Bayathya wa Al Payaka Yashak called Anya Rock Hakasa'a Agadal Mamka, verse 41. Wayamar Para'ai Al Yawasap Ra'ah Nathathya Athka Al Kal Aratazar Matazarayim, verse 42. Wayasar Para'ai Ath Taba'aithwa Ma'al Yadwa Wayathun Atha Al Yad Yawasap Wayalabash Athwa Bagadya Shash Wayasham Rabad Hazahab Al Tazawarwa, verse 43. Wayarakab Athwa Bamarakba Salah Bamarakaba Bamarakba Hamashana Ashar Lawa Wayakura Awa Lapunyawa Abarak when the 1 Athwa Al Kal Aratazar Matazarayim, verse 44. Wayamar Para'ai Al Yawasap Anya Para'ai Ubala'id Yaka La'ah Yarayum Ayash Yadwa Wa'at Regalwa Bakal Aratazar Matazarayim. That's it. Now we're going to be reading Genesis chapter 38 through 44 in the English. Genesis chapter 41, verse 38. And Pharaoh said unto his servants, can we find such a one as this is, a man in whom the Spirit of God is? Verse 39, and Pharaoh said unto Joseph, for as much as God hath showed thee all this, there is none so discreet and wise as thou art. So here it is, like, Pharaoh is pretty much telling Joseph how wise he is because the Lord is with him. You see what I'm saying? It's clear that the Lord is with him because all his, magicians and stuff like that, they could never interpret the dream the way Joseph did because they did not have the Lord with them. Pharaoh understood this. Thou shalt be over my house, and according unto thy word shall all my people be ruled. Only in the throne will I be greater than thou. So here it is, Pharaoh, and you gotta remember, Pharaoh, like, this is not no small feat right now. You see what I'm saying? Like, at this time, Egypt was a superpower, the same way America is right now. Egypt was the same superpower that America is now. And here it is, you got Pharaoh, who is essentially the president of the United States, and he's making Joseph the second in command. The only person above him is Pharaoh. So essentially, he's making him the vice president right now. It say, thou shalt be over my house, and according to thy word shall all my people be ruled. Only in that throne will I be greater than thou. Verse 41. And Pharaoh said unto Joseph, see, I have set thee over all the land of Egypt. Verse 42. And Pharaoh took off his ring from his hand and put it upon Joseph's hand, and arrayed him in vestures of fine linen, and put a gold chain about his neck. Verse 43. And he made him to ride in the second chariot which he had, and they cried before him, bow the knee. And he made him ruler over all the land of Egypt. Verse 44. And Pharaoh said unto Joseph, I am Pharaoh, and without thee shall no man lift up his hand or foot in the land of Egypt. So as you can see, yes, Pharaoh bestowing the power, but this is the Lord. This is the Lord with Joseph right now. This is the Lord with Joseph. Like, how the scriptures say, when you pretty much, and I'm paraphrasing, pretty much like when you keep these laws, statutes, and commandments, the Lord will make it to where as though your enemies are at peace with you. And even in this case, the Lord was with Joseph to the point where as though not only could his enemy recognize it, his enemy was willing to put him over all his people. You see what I'm saying? This is how you know the Lord is with him. All right, so we're going to continue reading. We're going to be in Genesis chapter 41, verses 45 through 51. We're going to read that in the Hebrew, then in the English. Genesis chapter 41, verse 45. Wayakwara'a, para'ai, shtum, yawasa, tazapanath. It's like tazapanath, pa'ainak, wayathan, lawa, asanath, bath, pawatya, para'ai, kahan, an, la'asha, wayataza'a, Yawasa, Al, Arataza, Matazariam, verse 46. Wayawasap, Bun, Shalashium, Shana, Ba'aimadwa, Lapunya, Para'ai, Malak, Matazariam, Wayataza'a, Yawasa, Malapunya, Para'ai, Waya Ibar, Bakal, Arataza, Matazariam, verse 47, with the ice, Ha'aratazah, Bashabai, Shunya, Hashabai, Lakwa Matazayim, verse 48, Waya Kwapat, Wayakwa Earth, Call, a call, Shabai, Shunyam, Ashar, Hayawa, Ba'aratazah, Matazariam, Wayathan, a call, Ba'ayarium, a call, Shada, Ha'ayar, Ashar, Sibayabath, Yaha, Nathan, but the Waka, verse 49. Rayatazabar, Yawasap, Bar, Kakawal, Hayam, Harabah, Ma'ad, Ad, Kaya, Kadal, Asapar, Kaya, Ayan, Masapar, verse 50. Williya, it's like Williya, Wasap, Williya Wasap, Yalad, Shunya, Bunyam, Batarum, Dabawa'a, Shana, Hara'ai, Ashar, Yalada, Lawa, Asanath, Bath, Pawatya, Parai, Kahun, Awan, verse 51. Wayakura'ah, Yawasat, Sham, Habakawar, Manashah, Kaya, Nashanya, Alahayim, Kal, Aimalya, Wa'ath, Kal, Bayath, Abaya, and that's it. We're going to be reading Genesis chapter 41, verses 45 through 51 in the English. And Pharaoh called Joseph's name Zephanath Paneah, and gave him to wife Asenath, the daughter of Potiphar, priest of On. And Joseph went out over all the land of Egypt. Verse 46. And Joseph was 30 years old when he stood before Pharaoh, king of Egypt. And Joseph went out from the presence of the Lord and went throughout all the land of Egypt. Verse 47. And in the 7 plenteous years, the earth brought forth by handfuls. Verse 48. And he gathered up all the food of the 7 years which were in the land of Egypt, and laid up the food in the cities. The food of the field, which was round about every city, laid he up in the same. Verse 49. And Joseph gathered corn as the sand of the sea, very much until he left numbering, for it was without number. Verse 50. And unto Joseph were born 2 sons before the years of famine came, which Asenath, the daughter of Potiphar, priest of On, bare unto him. Verse 51. And Joseph called the name of the firstborn Manasseh, for God said, he had made me forget all my toil and all my father's house. So here it is, Joseph, he goes from being in prison, he goes to being the second in command in Egypt. Now he has a wife, and now he's been born 2 sons. The first one named Manasseh. All right, so we're going to be reading Genesis chapter 41, verses 52 through 57. We're going to read that. So like 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So like first verse 52 through 57, then Genesis 42 and 1. Genesis chapter 41, verse 52 in the Hebrew. Wa'ath, Sham, Hashunya, Kora'ah, Aparium, Kaya, Haparunya, Alahayim, Ba'aratazar, Anyaya, verse 53. With the Kol Yana, Shabai, Shunya, Hashabai, Ashar, Haya, Ba'aratazar, Matazariam, verse 54. With the Halayana, with the Kol Yana, Shabai, Shunya, Hara'ai, Labawa'a, Ka'ashar, Amar, Yawasap, Wayahaya, Ra'ai, Bakol, Ha'aratazawath, Wabakol, Aratazah, Matazarayim, Haya, Lakam, verse 55. With the Ra'ai, Kal, Aratazah, Matazarayim, Wayatazaik, Ha'aim, Al, Para'ai, Lalakam, Wayamar, Para'ai, Lakal, Matazarayim, Lakawa, Al, Yawasap, Ashar, Ya Amar, Lakum, the Aishawa, verse 56. Waha'ai, Wahara'ai, Haya, Al, Kal, Punya, Ha'arataza, Waya Pathak, Yawasap, Ath, Kal, Ashar, Baham, Waya Shabar, Lamatazarayim, Waya Kazak, Hara'ai, Ba'arataza, Matazarayim, verse 57. Wakal, Ha'arataza, Ba'awa, Matazaraya, Matazarayama, Lashabar, Al, Yawasap, Kaya, Kazak, Hara'ai, Bakal, Ha'arataza. Genesis chapter 42, verse 1. Bara'ashaya, Bara'a, Alahayim, Ath, Hashamyam, Wa'ath, Ha'arataza. And that's it. We're going to be reading Genesis 8. Salaki. Let me read that again. Genesis chapter 42, verse 1. Wayara'ah, Ya'aikwab, Kaya, Yash, Shabar, Bamatazarayim, Wayamar, Ya'aikwab, Labanyawa, Lama, Ladara'awa. And that's it. So we're going to read Genesis chapter 41, verse 52 through 57, and then Genesis 42, verse 1 in the English. Genesis chapter 41, verse 52. And the name of the second called he Ephraim, for God hath caused me to be fruitful in the land of my affliction. Verse 53. So Joseph had twins. You got Manasseh and you got Ephraim. You got both of them. They were born twins. They were Joseph's first two sons. Verse 53. And the 7 years of plenteousness that was in the land of Egypt were ended. Verse 54. And the 7 years of dearth began to come, according as Joseph had said. And the dearth was in all the lands, but in all the land of Egypt there was bread. Verse 55. And when all the land of Egypt was famished, the people cried to Pharaoh for bread. And Pharaoh said unto all the Egyptians, go unto Joseph, what he saith to you, do. Verse 56. And the famine was over all the face of the earth, and Joseph opened all the storehouses and sold unto the Egyptians, and the famine waxed sore in the land of Egypt. Verse 57. And all countries came into Egypt to Joseph to buy corn, because that the famine was so sore in all the lands. So this is Genesis 42 and verse 1. Now when Jacob saw that there was corn in Egypt, Jacob said unto his sons, why do you look one upon another? That's it. All right, so we now in Genesis chapter 42, verses 2 through 8 in the Hebrew. Wayamar, Hana, Shema'ithia, Kaya, Yash, Shabar, Bamatazarayim, Radwa, Shema, Washabarwa, Lanwa, Masham, Wanakyaha, Wala'ah, Namawa, verse 3. Wayaradwa, Akia, Yawasap, Esharah, Lashabar, Bara, Mama Tazarayim, verse 4. Wa'ah, Banyamyan, Akia, Yawasap, La'ad, Shalak, Ya'aikwab, Akiwa, Kaya, Amar, Pun, Yakora Anya, Wakora Anwa, Asawan, verse 5. Wayaba'awa, Bunya, Yasha'ala, Lashabar, Bathawaka, Haba Ayam, Kaya, Haya, Hara'ai, Ba'aratazar, Kana'ain, verse 6. Wayara'ah, Yawasap, Akua, Wayakaram, Wayathunka, Ala Alyaham, Waydabar, Athum, Washawath, Wayamar, Alahayam, Alahum, Ma'ayan, Ba'athum, Wayamarwa, Ma'aratazar, Kana'ain, Lashabar, Akol, verse 8. Wayakar, Yawasap, Akua, Wahum, La'ah, Hakarahawa. And that's it. Now we're going to read 2 through 8. Genesis chapter 42, verse 2 through 8. 2 through 8 in the English. Genesis chapter 42, verse 2. And he said, Behold, I have heard that the corn is in Egypt. Get you down thither and buy for us from thence, that we may live and not die. Now you hear is Joseph. He got the rest of his sons. Remember, early in the chapters, they took Joseph and they sold him into slavery. His brothers did. That spirit came on them of jealousy and stuff like that. So they put him there. So now their father is telling them that he got to go down to Egypt, and they gotta buy from him because the whole land is famished. And verse 3, it says, and Joseph's 10 brethren went down to buy corn in Egypt. Verse 4, but Benjamin, Joseph's brother, Jacob, sent not with his brethren, for he said, lest peradventure mischief befall him. Verse 5, and the sons of Israel came to buy corn among those that came, for the famine was in the land of Canaan. Verse 6, and Joseph was the governor over the land, and he it was that sold to all the people of the land. And Joseph's brethren came and bowed themselves down before him with their faces to the earth. Verse 7, and Joseph saw his brethren, and he knew them, but made himself stranger to them, and spake roughly unto them. And he said unto them, whence come ye? And they said, from the land of Canaan to buy food. And Joseph knew his brethren, but they knew not him. So you got to imagine right now. So now Joseph he's pretty much, he's handing out the rations to people and stuff like that. So you got his 10 brothers who came down. And of course, the scriptures say Jacob kept Benjamin back. Something happened to all his sons. At least he still got one son. You see what I'm saying? So he sent them down to Egypt. Joseph sees his brothers. This is the first time he's seen them since, they did what they did to him. So he spoke to him roughly, but he recognized them, but they couldn't recognize him. So that's where we at. So we in Genesis chapter 42, verse 9 through 15. Hold on one second. Hey, shalom, no grace. Call Captain Sapari. I'm teaching a class right now. He should be on his way to go. Call Captain Sapari right now. Hey, it's like, you heard me? Come, Lord Christ. Genesis chapter 42, verse 9. And Joseph remembered the dreams which he dreamed of them, and said unto them, ye are priests, and said unto them, ye are spies, to see the nakedness of the land ye are come. And they, verse 10, and they said unto him, nay, my Lord, but to buy food are thy servants come. Verse 11, we are all one man's son. We are true men. Thy servants are no spies. Verse 12, and he said unto them, nay, but to see the nakedness of the land ye are come. Verse 13, and they said, thy servants are 12 brethren, the sons of one man in the land of Canaan. And behold, the youngest is this day with our father, and one is not. Verse 14, and Joseph said unto them, that is it that I spake unto you, saying, ye are spies. Verse 15, hereby ye shall be proved. By the life of Pharaoh you should not go forth hence, except your youngest brother come hither. So right now, like Joseph, you gotta remember, he ain't seen his brother Benjamin. You see what I'm saying? And he was real tight with his brother Benjamin. but he was the only one that wasn't there. So he's telling them, listen, y'all, I ain't selling you, I ain't giving you nothing until you go, unless you can go bring that younger brother here too. So that's the order that Joseph just gave his other brothers. All right, so now we in Genesis chapter 42, verses 16 through 22 in the Hebrew and then in the English. Genesis chapter 42, verse 16. Shalakwa, Makam, Akkad, Wayakwat, Ath, Akyakum, Wa Atham, Ha'asarwa, Wayabakanwa, Debariakum, Ha'amath, Athkam, Wa'am, La'ah, Kaya, Para'ai, Kaya, Maragolium, Atham, verse 17. Waya Asap, Atham, Al, Mashamar, Shalasha, Yum, verse 18. Wayamar, Alaham, Yawasap, Bayawam, Hashalayashya, Za'ath, Aishawa, Wakayawa, Ha'alahayam, Anya, Yara'ah, verse 19. Kanayam, Atham, Salagi. Atham, Akikam, Akkad, Ya'asar, Babayath, Mashamarkam, Wa Atham, Akawa, Haba Ya'awa, Shabar, Ra'iba 1, Bathyakam, verse 20. Wa'ath, Akyakam, Hakwatan, Ya'awa, Alya, Wayamanwa, Debariakum, Wala'ah, Thamawathwa, Aishawa, Khan, verse 21. Wayamarwa, Ayash, Al, Akiwa, Abal, Ashamyam, Anakanwa, Al, Akayanwa, Ashar, Ra'ayanwa, Tazarath, Napashwa, Bahathakananwa, Alayanwa, Wala'ah, Shama'ainwa, Al Khan, Ba'ah, Alayanwa, Hatazarah, Haza'ah, verse 22. Waya'ain, Ra'awabun, Atham, La'amar, Halawa'ah, Amarathya, Alyakam, La'amar, Al, Dakata'awa, Bayalad, Wala'ah, Shama'aitham, Wagam, Damwa, Hana, Badarash. And that's it. We're going to be reading Genesis chapter 42, verses 16 through 22 in the English. Genesis chapter 42, verse 16. Send one of you and let him fetch your brother, and ye shall be kept in prison, that your words may be proved, whether there be any truth in you, or else by the life of Pharaoh surely ye are spies. Verse 17. And he put them all together into ward 3 days. Verse 18. And Joseph said unto them the third day, this do and live, for I fear God. Verse 19. If ye be true men, let one of your brethren be bound in the house of your prison. Go ye, carry corn for the famine of your houses. Verse 20. But bring your youngest brother unto me, so shall your words be verified, and ye shall not die. And they did so. So here it is, Joseph, again, he recognized them, but they still don't recognize him. So what he did was he held one of the brothers there in prison, and sent the rest of them home to bring Benjamin back. He wanted to see his brother, but he said so he can verify that story. He knew what they were saying was true. But what he was doing was he was testing him. He wanted to see his younger brother. So it say, but bring verse 20, but bring your youngest brother unto me, so shall your words be verified, and you shall not die. And they did so. Verse 21. And they said one to another, we are verily guilty concerning our brother, and that we saw the anguish of his soul when he besought us, and we would not hear. Therefore is this distress come upon us. Verse 22. And Reuben answered them, saying, Spake I not unto you, saying, do not sin against the child, and ye will not hear. Therefore, behold, also his blood is required. Yeah, so here it is, the sons of Israel, they let them know what's going on. And they also let them know, we get our brother, you ain't gonna touch our brother. So they standing up for our brother, but we're gonna get more into the story as we read. Probably next week we'll get more into the story, what goes on, with this situation. So, but that concludes the reading portion of today. With that, I'm mighty. La Yasha Allah. My name is Wapanyah Hapadam, which means rise and face the east. We're going to do the Lord's Prayer in Hebrew and then in the English. The Lord's Prayer. Abanawa, Shabashamayim, Wadash, Hayah, Shabka, Yahweh, Malakwaka, Daba'ah, Pratizaka, Hayah, Aisha, Ba'aratasa, Kuwa, Hayah, Bashamayim, Nathamanawa, Lakam, Call, Yawam, Wasalakanawa, Kabawatanawa, Kasalakanawa, Kabawatinawa, Wala'ah, Dabi'ainawa, Wadasaya 1, a ball, Hawashainawa, Mayan, Ride, Hiyah, Laka, Amalakwa, Waha'ala, Wahatapara, Iwalamyam, Aman. And in the English, our Father, which art in heaven, hallowed be thy name, thy kingdom come, thy will be done in earth as it is in heaven. Give us this day our daily bread, and forgive us our debts as we forgive our debtors. And lead us not into temptation, but deliver us from evil. For thine is the kingdom, and the power, and the glory, forever, so be it. This is going to end our Sabbath service. To Allah Akim, Yahweh Hashem Yahweh Brakathum, to Allah Akwathian, Yahweh Shema Alathun by Hashem Yahweh. Shalom.